It's recording. Hi there, welcome. It's good to have you with me today. We're on Instagram Live, we are on Facebook Live, and we are on the webinar live. It is so good to see you. Just as we're getting ready to go, I would love it if you would take just a moment to introduce yourself. Just drop your name and where you're from in the comments. It is always fun to see how far-reaching these webinars go. So we'll give you just a second to do that while we let other people join us. And we are going to get rocking and rolling pretty quick here. Now, as you probably already know, if you've been with me for more than about 10 minutes, you know that there are many different kinds of iridology. There's a lot of different iridology philosophies. Our focus today is on the up-to-date iridology that is known as constitutional iridology. This style of iridology is validated scientifically, and that makes it really fun to use because we are standing on solid ground. My name is Judith Cobb, and I've been my original training in iridology started over 4 decades ago as I studied Jansenian or North American iridology. And for about the past 3 decades, exactly the past 3 decades, I have been a constitutional iridologist. I got frustrated with what I learned in my original training. I was taught to diagnose from the eyes, and I was also taught to make prescriptions, which of course is not a good idea. And so I just want to do this, there we go. And so with that, I just totally got absolutely frustrated. And it meant that I was very, very close to walking away from iridology completely when I was blessed with the opportunity to learn and love constitutional iridology. Just by way of brief introduction, I am a master herbalist, a natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a level 3 IPA certified iridology instructor. What that means is that I am one of only 5 level 3 instructors in the world to date. That this is a new level that was just introduced a year ago. And I hopped on that opportunity to do the studying and to get the training and to pass the exams to be an instructor at the level 3. Over the many years that I've been in holistic healing, I've written many books and I've self-distributed them. They are all out of print right now. Pregnancy Naturally, the Herbal Birth Kit Handbook, Healthy Kids Naturally, The Essential Guide to Nature Sunshine Products, Biokinesiology and Color Therapy Level 1 and 2, and the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology Textbook. Now that is the one book that's not out of print, but it is only available to my students. Marcia is asking a very good question. How can I connect with you after the call? Marcia, if you're able to stay with us till the end of the call, I'm going to give you a URL, a special link to book a time to speak with me about iridology courses. Okay, so does that help, Marcia? If you let me know if that's what you're after, then we're great. We've got Lori Pixley for Calgary. Lori, you're in Calgary too? I'm in Calgary. Very cool. Hello, fellow Calgarian. Good to meet you. All right, so back to the here and the now. With those books that I've written, I've also developed a lot of courses. And so in those courses, a herbology course that was designed to teach individuals how to use herbs that they would buy that were already commercially prepared, and then taught them how to recognize formulations and what a formulation could be used for. Also, Biokinesiology and Color Therapy Level 1 and 2. I was a certified prenatal educator for a few years, loved designing and teaching prenatal classes. That was so much fun. And actually, fertility and pregnancy are a couple of my passions in my clinic. And then, of course, design and teaching the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System, which is an IPA-approved iridology course. It includes all of the Level 1 and Level 2 curriculum. So stay with me till the end of our time together, and I will let you know how to reach out to me. Now, Marcia, to answer your question, you've registered for the webinar. You will also receive the replay link. I will make a note to send you a personal email. Just make a note here. with the call link, so you can schedule a Zoom call with me. Alrighty, so we'll make sure that you can get in touch with me. I'm a proud member of the Canadian Association of Holistic Nutrition Professionals, the Canadian Association of Natural Nutrition Practitioners, and of the Alberta Herbalist Guild. Quick little bit, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This is not a 30-minute commercial for you, just giving you a heads up that the next live course start date is October 12th. If you are a health professional, that could be a herbalist, a nutrition coach, a naturopath, a chiropractor, a medical doctor, an RN, and you're interested in learning iridology, stay with us till the end if you can, because I've got an invitation for you for how to connect with me. If you're not a health professional, or if you don't have a solid foundation in anatomy and physiology, shoot me an email, reach out to me somehow, and I will connect you to the course that I like my students to take to get the A&P. I only teach people who are health professionals or who have an anatomy and physiology course under their belt, and not a high school course. It's got to be a college level course. And so, and because that allows us to go so much deeper, you're going to get a feel for some of that as we work together, as we look at iSlides today. This is what one of my students, recent graduates, said. I took an iridology course from another school a few years ago, but I was left feeling inadequately trained with no confidence in the material or my abilities to perform accurate assessments. Judith Cobb, on the other hand, is a wonderful instructor. She presents the material in this course in a concise, organized way. Every aspect of this iridology course is covered in detail. She clearly answers every question asked, no matter how trivial the student may think it is. Judith structures the classes in a way that makes them incredibly interesting. Clarification is clearly established through her instruction, discussion, and student participation. Upon completion of Judith's course, I feel very confident in my abilities and excited to offer iridology services to my clients. This course is an incredible value, highly recommended. Okay, so now what I want to do with you is I want to dive into what we're really here for. Is that okay with you? Yeah. Here are the questions we want to talk about today. What is iridology? Why does it work? What can it teach us? How should it be used? And we will look at lots of eyes and do some little case studies here. So what I want to underscore for you is that if you have a question as we're going through this, please type it into the chat box whatever platform you're with me on. And I am monitoring 3 screens to make sure that I don't lose anybody on this. So if you've got questions as we're going through, please ask. I want to make sure that your questions get answered. So what is iridology? This is a pretty basic one. Iridology is the study of the colored part of the eye, which is also known as the iris. And it is iridology, not iridology. We're not studying ears here, we're studying eyes, right? It's the iris, it's the iridology. So we are looking at the colored part of the eye. Now, when we are looking at this, modern iridologists not only study the iris, but they also have a foundation in sclerology, right? So with the iris, we are looking at the lay of the fibers, we're looking at color patterns, and we're looking at different things like this little fiber that wants to do this funny thing here. In sclerology, we're looking at the blood vessels. We may see other types of things on the surface of the eye, other developments, and this all correlates one to another. It all ties itself together for us. Why does it work? The eyeball is the largest neural receptor in the body, right? That your eyeball is an actual nerve ending. It has over 28,000 nerve endings in the iris itself. We aren't even sure what all of them do. The eyeball develops embryologically at the same time the nervous system does. If there's a challenge in the body genetically that the body knows about, there is usually some kind of a marker in the iris. And again, that is giving us an indication of what the inherent potentials and inherent challenges are, not guarantees. This is where old school North American iridologists fall, is that they tell you what's going on, They don't ask you, they don't correlate things as well as it could be done. And I am very emphatic about that, that we never ever tell a client what is wrong. What can iridology teach us? And this is what we're really focusing on for today's webinar. Iridology, so the iris of the eye is genetically determined, and what we see in the iris teaches us about inherent predispositions. So this set of eyes from a client of mine who was in her mid-60s tells us that this person is predisposed to spending a lot of time reacting in the sympathetic nervous system. So she spends a lot of time in fight, flight, or freeze. When we see something like this, we want to ask questions. We want to understand, how does this person actually respond to stress? What are the stressors in their life? What are they doing to mitigate the stressors and to help their body handle stress better? So oftentimes when I see something like this and the person is describing things that they find stressful that are really not earth shaking, they're not life shattering, they're little things that go wrong in a normal day, I will often jump in with something like astragalus, something that is a broad spectrum adaptogen to give this person some resiliency. Now, this person is also showing symptoms of her liver wanting to run the show. So genetically, her liver wants to be in control of things. Now, this is why it's so important to have your A and P under your belt. The liver does over 500 different jobs. And it's not that you have to be able to recite all 500, but you should know the key ones, the more prominent ones, and understand what those things mean for the rest of the body. For example, the liver does phase 1, phase 2 detox. What happens if that doesn't happen appropriately? The liver manufactures cholesterol. What happens if that's not happening right? The cholesterol is used to create hormones, and then the liver has, in the phase 1, phase 2, has to break down the excess of hormones. What happens if it's not doing that right? Liver stores iron. What happens if it's not doing that? Liver manufactures bits and pieces to send out to all the different body parts. What if that's not happening right? Right, and so liver produces bile to be released into the intestinal tract to emulsify fats so that you can get the nutrients from fats that you eat, and so you can absorb your fat soluble vitamins. So what happens if those things aren't working well? So we don't want to just say the liver detoxifies, because that is cutting it so short, and it's not everything. We need to understand A and P. We may also see, we know that the liver plays roles in energy creation, in taking glucose and making glycogen to store for future use, for instance. We know that it mitigates allergy symptoms. We know that it contributes to digestion. We know that it has roles in the immune system. So we have to understand that what this is telling us is that this person's liver wants to run the show, but we can't tell by looking at the eyes how it's running the show. Okay, so this client came to me with recurring bladder infections and allergy symptoms that she wanted to have relieved. So again, when we see this liver predisposition, we know that she may be more prone to allergies. Her liver may want to be out of balance in that direction. And so we can give her a herbal remedy that will mitigate symptoms, but that's a Band-Aid. We always want to be working at the root cause. And so we needed to go in using some constitutional remedies. Now, for those bladder infections have a huge emotional base to them as well. On the physical level, we don't want to just treat bladder. Like, we don't want to just go in with corn silk or a cranberry. Right, that's a symptom approach. And we may do that to buy some time and to make the client more comfortable. But if we know liver is running the show, and that liver has immune responsibilities, we could use a herb like golden seal, for instance, to support the liver, help it do its job better, and thereby help the body fight the infection without too much help. Does this make sense? Does this make sense how I'm using the eyes to trace back and figure out where the weak link might be? If this makes sense, give me yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me know that this is making sense. Any other people, Is this making sense for you? Yeah, yeah, good, good. I love it, love it. Now I want you to notice that I never ever said anything in here like, Makala, yes, I can see your text as well. Yeah, I can see, I'm seeing all these messages come in. This is beautiful. I never once said this person is toxic. I never once said this person needs to cleanse. I never once said this person has a congested liver. I have not said these eyes look unhealthy. We cannot possibly know any of those things from just looking at their eyes. We have to have a conversation with our client. We have to understand where they're coming from. So, I can see that the liver wants to run the show. When I understood what my client wanted help with, that she had recurring bladder infections and that she had allergies, it gives context to what I'm seeing in the eyes. And it helps me to then ask appropriate questions to get the kinds of information I need to create the right kind of protocol for her, right? So it's never, I tell you what's wrong and you just go do it. This is holistic. That means we involve the person. We want to have that conversation that is so, so important. Our clients are, and I'm not dissing the medical world here, okay? I don't want anyone to think that I'm doctor bashing, but our clients are tired of being told what's wrong and what to do and not being given any understanding, not even being asked for their input on things. And so when we use their eyes to connect their symptoms to what is likely going on in their body, to understand how their body operates, and then ask questions and create our protocols from there, our clients feel heard, they feel understood, they feel valued, they feel like they've been seen. And we can't do this in 10 minutes, of course, but you can do it very comfortably in an hour, which you never get with a doctor where I live, never. Okay, so let's take a look at this as well. So the iris shows us what is inherent. This is showing us what's been passed down through the generations. What are the things that mom and dad gave them, that the grandparents gave, that the great-grandparents gave? The sclera is what this client is doing with this on her own. Okay, this is what she's earned. And when we tie together what we see in the sclera with what we see in the eyes, with the symptoms the client wants help with, we can ask even better questions. The beautiful thing here is that because the irides are genetic, we may see some changes, but not the kinds of changes you see on the popular social media sites. But we can see, because the sclera is dynamic, we can see when we're having significant improvements here, as long as these blood vessels are not too badly broken down. So with this client, and for those of you who are with me on Instagram, I'm going to move my camera closer so you'll only see one eye at a time, but at least you'll see it better. With this client, she has a predisposition towards being an introvert. Okay, this is called the collarette. In this client, it's very tight. We aren't going to move that. It's genetically there. Okay, we cannot move that. And that suggests an introvert. It suggests a predisposition to constipation. It suggests a predisposition towards poor energy production. Now, I would never tell the client those things. I would ask. So I might ask, do you prefer being in small groups of people you know well, or do you like being in large social settings? I would ask, tell me about your bowel movements. How frequently do you have a bowel movement? What is the consistency of them? And because this is very constricted, I know what I would expect to hear. But if my client, as this client was, is very self-aware, if they've been working on their diet and their lifestyle, she may actually have 2 to 3 nicely formed bowel movements a day that are not constipated, that are not pencil thin, that are not little rabbit turds, right? She may be doing the right things to help her body function better. It's not going to change her genetic structure. It's not going to move this fiber in her eye, but it is going to make her feel better, help her feel better. And that is what we want to do. So we always want that conversation. We need to ask these questions about what is your body doing and what are you doing to help it, right? And this is so, so important. So she was very, very aware. She ate small meals. She ate lots of vegetables, very little grain. She always made good protein choices. And so what we found is that she was doing fairly well, needed just a little help. So we used some digestive supports and with her as well. Now, one of her eyes also suggest that she has a bit of a risk for allergies. And so I asked about that. And indeed, that was one of the things that was sort of further down on her shopping list, was the seasonal allergies. So constitutionally, as we look at her eyes, this suggests that she has a predisposition to leaky gut. But by the time she got to me, she had virtually no gut symptoms. And so what that tells me is I still want to build her gut. She's got things under control fairly well, but could they be better? Yeah, pretty sure they could be better. So one of my favorite things for gut is to use a high quality collagen, right? I find that using a high quality collagen does a remarkable job of helping to rebuild the intestinal tract lining. And of course, then we also see that she probably needs a little bit of help digesting her well-chosen proteins. And so we gave her some betaine hydrochloric acid as well. So how do we use iridology in a clinical practice? Let's do this little client again. And so this is a woman in her mid-50s. She had been a client of mine some 20 years previously. Apparently, and I apologize because I didn't remember her. She'd come into me with sinus issues, which I apparently had given her the best advice. Her sinus is completely resolved, which was brilliant. Now here she was in the 50s coming back to me because I'd helped her the first time. She'd been well in all those intervening years. And so her main concern was hot flashes. So her diet she has her diet figured out really well. A couple of little fine tunings that we needed to put into place. Knowing that she has hot flashes, I had to ask about two things. First off, I had to ask about her nervous system and her adrenal glands. Now she's a social worker. She's got a lot of training into anatomy, physiology, stress mitigation, things like that. So I asked her about her adrenal glands. I asked her about her sympathetic response. I asked her about her sleep. I asked her what she does to regenerate and how she handles stress. And I asked her specifically if her hot flashes get worse with stress. So she's very aware of getting enough sleep. She has learned to not overschedule herself with clients. She eats pretty darn good. Like I could move in with her and be very, very happy, right? Very happy with her food choices. She works out moderately, which is brilliant. And she does find that her hot flashes get worse when she has more stress. And she knows when she's seeing that she needs to back down a little bit. Her eyes also suggest that liver wants to run her show. So I asked her about problems digesting fats. Did she have any anger issues? Does she hold on to grudges? And again, her food choices are good. So she really doesn't struggle with digesting fats. And she realized many years ago that she was a grudge holder. And so she's done a lot of work to let go of grudges. I mean, a grudge is just you giving your energy away to somebody else and they don't even know they've got it, right? And so she decided to reclaim all of her energy, all of her power, and she no longer holds grudges, which is brilliant. So the one thing in her diet that I know that is often a problem with women who have hot flashes is coffee, because of what caffeine does to the adrenal glands and what coffee in and of itself does to various nutrient levels. So she was drinking 1 cup of Turkish coffee a day. Now, I'm going to tell you, I know nothing about coffee. I know less than nothing about coffee. And so she explained to me what it is, and it just went whoosh, right? And so I asked her, would you do an experiment? Would you cut the coffee out for 10 days and let's see what it does? And she was willing to do that. When she came in for her next appointment, I asked her, so how did it go? And I said, when you cut out your coffee for 10 days. What happened? She said, oh, the hot flashes disappeared. I said, that's fabulous. So what is your next move? Do you want to stay off the coffee, or are you going to go back to it? What is your next move? And she said, don't you have a herb that will work if I have coffee? I said, no, I don't. I really don't. Coffee depletes so many things that it would be very expensive and very difficult. And she said, well, I really do love that 1 cup of coffee a day. And as you know, everything else in my diet and my lifestyle is really well balanced. And so I'm going to go to the doctor for hormone replacement therapy. It broke my heart to hear that, but it was her choice. She knew that the coffee was causing the problems, right? And so there was nothing I could do to override that. And I wasn't going to, I don't get pushy. I don't live in her life. I don't know what else she's maybe had to give up in her life that she really enjoyed. And if giving up coffee is too big of a thing for her to do. So, we parted as friends, and I gave her a hug and I said, if you ever change your mind or if you want to work on something else, please give me a call. I'd be happy to work with you. I absolutely would. Now, there's a lot of other markers in her eye that suggest liver insufficiencies, that her liver doesn't manage her carbohydrates right, that her blood lipids are moving towards potentially being out of balance, that we may begin to see some insufficiencies and some congestion in the circulatory system. We also see some indications in her eyes of digestive challenges, of an increased risk of digestive challenges, of spinal subluxations. I know we've got a retired chiropractor on the call with us today, when we can see the potential for spinal misalignments that have been long-standing in the eyes. And so those are all things then that I was able to say, I would really like you to pursue working with someone on your spinal alignment. That may help here. It's not something I can do. I don't have the training. And so really important as well as we do these consultations to make sure that we're not overwhelming our clients. Right? I typically will limit dietary recommendations to no more than 2 or maybe 3 very specific things, and maybe a couple of supplements, and maybe 1 lifestyle thing. So it might be, and this wasn't her recommendations, but it might be, you need to have a serving of leafy greens this big, and we need to reduce the coffee from 6 cups a day to 3 cups a day. Could you also work at getting a 15-minute walk every day? Let's add a good B complex to you. And that will often be, for example, a first appointment, right? Really measurable, really definable things that the client says, yes, I can absolutely do that, because we can never give them everything they need in 1 appointment, nor should we try. That's called overwhelm or fire hosing, right? We want to build their program step by step. And the same set of eyes can be assessed in slightly different ways when we have different history and different things we're working on. Okay, so we see lots of indications in here in her left iris that her circulatory system is getting quite congested, right? That's affecting specific organs as well. So good for us to see those things. And I don't tell clients everything I see in their eyes on that first appointment. That again would be overwhelming, like just shoot me now and get it over with, right? And so we don't want to do that. We want to be giving our clients an amount of information that will not overwhelm them, that they can manage very well and be very successful with, see some degree of improvement in their symptoms, so that when they come back to see us in 3 or 4 weeks, we could then add another layer, and we can just keep adding things 1 layer at a time, doing those modifications in manageable steps. This is an interesting client of mine. Now, for those of you who are seeing this on your computer, it'll be much clearer than those of you who are seeing this on Instagram. The top images were taken in 2014. The bottom images were taken April 2022. Now, the first thing I want you to notice about these images is how different they are color-wise. This is a technological issue. There are many places where you will see someone showing a picture like this, and then a picture like this, and they will talk about the before and after and the cleansing and the work they did. And I'm saying bohunk. I'm saying that is nowhere near accurate. This was a camera that shot film, right? This was an Olympus camera body, I believe it was. Might have been a Pentax, maybe it was a Canon, I don't remember. This, on the other hand, is a 24 megapixel camera. So we see a different, we've got different light sources. You can see that here and here, the different light sources. So that's going to affect the color. The brand of the camera, the model of the camera is going to affect how the color is processed as well. And then even the screen that you're viewing these on will alter color perception. So we can never use photos from different cameras or from the same camera set on different settings with different lighting as before and afters. So these are the eyes of a male client. He's 64, he's now 64, 5'11", weighs 200 pounds. And when he came to me initially, he was just working on some general stuff. When he came to me recently, it was because he'd been diagnosed as being pre-diabetic. Now, when you understand pre-diabetes, you understand that that is a real kettle of fish, right? It can be a big problem. His sugars were averaging anywhere from 7 to 7.5. That's high. He had been tried on metformin that gave him diarrhea. They switched him to Glumetza instead. He's on some blood pressure medications that are messing with his potassium levels. So for his blood pressure, which is slightly elevated, he's on hydrochlorothiazide, which is a diuretic. He's on trandolopril. Yeah, these names, who makes them up, right? Trandolopril, trandolapril. I practice this. He's also on myelin torvastatin, which is for cholesterol. He's on sildenafil, which is a Viagra, and he's on Giardiance, which is another blood sugar med. His glomerular filtration rate is a low normal, which could be suggesting with the blood pressure and the cholesterol and the insulin resistance even that he is heading towards early kidney disease. His hemoglobin A1C was 7.2. It should be below 5.7. So his cholesterol is coming down with the meds, but he doesn't want to be pre-diabetic. He wants to be healthy. And in his previous life, before he retired, he was a sports coach, right? And so he knows what it is to be fit. His elevated hemoglobin A1C indicates insulin resistance, which often is a result of dietary and lifestyle issues. So as we look at his eyes, we can see that he has a genetic tendency towards being over acid. And I have to wonder, that's the genetic tendency, but is that tendency messing with his kidneys and actually helping to feed into the low glomerular filtration rate? That's another word I have problems with. Acid in the blood and in the tissues leads to inflammation. Inflammation increases the risk of insulin resistance, and it increases the risk of endothelin and of aldosterone. And so endothelin is a vasoconstrictor, which, you know, if you vasoconstrict too far, you're going to boost your blood pressure up. And if the potassium goes down too far and you've got too much sodium, that's going to mean that you're holding too much fluid in your bloodstream. That's going to drive your blood pressure up as well. Now, the other thing we want to look at here is he's potentially got an under acid stomach. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment, because I've seen him several times and we are getting such good results. So because his wife, who's been a client of mine for more years than this fellow has been, because I know they both wanted to get on track, I suggested more vegetables and including some fermented vegetables because we needed to get this gut working well. We needed some protein at breakfast and we needed to eliminate the coffee. So in the vegetables, I really stress that he increases leafy greens. So all we've done is we've increased his leafy greens, got him playing with fermented vegetables, added protein at breakfast time, and gotten rid of coffee. That's all we've done so far for diet. We haven't done a major 180 on anything. Exercise wise, I suggested that he needed to get some resistance training going to help him burn some fat and build some muscle. And that resistance training will also help to begin to reverse the insulin resistance. Supplement wise, we decided to use an L-arginine, which is a vasorelaxer. That's L-arginine triggers the production of NO in the body. And we used some berberine to begin reducing the insulin resistance. After 3 months, we got his hemoglobin A1C down to 5.9. So it was 7.2. In 3 months, we dropped it to 5.9. And his doctor was saying, keep this up. And in another 3 months, we're going to take you off at least one of your blood sugar meds. Yes, we're winning. But I noticed in one of his appointments that he's constantly clearing his throat. Now, throat clearing is one of the poorly recognized symptoms of acid reflux, or of reflux. I shouldn't call it acid reflux. It's just reflux. And so when I look at the stomach zone and I see that he likely doesn't digest proteins well, it's likely not an acid reflux. It's likely an alkaline reflux. And that just, whether it's acid or alkaline coming up the esophagus, it leads to a mucus buildup in the throat that leads to the constant throat clearing. So I suggested a few things too, and we added a protein digestive aid, so a hydrochloric acid, and an all-around digestive enzyme to his program. So he's only doing 4 things now: the protein digestive aid, an all-around enzyme, berberine, and L-arginine. Those are only supplements he's using. And I suggested that he should go to an osteopath or a chiropractor and get checked for a locked diaphragm. So we're just waiting for his follow-up appointment now. But I wouldn't have known to go after the stomach for that mucus in the throat if I hadn't seen his eyes, because that throat clearing can be postnasal drip as well. But I don't see that risk here, right? And so there's a lot of little indicators in here that just feed in and round out the picture for us. So how do we use iridology in our clinical practices? In our clinical practices, iridology is used to guide our questions. So client comes in for that first appointment. We greet them, we ask, how can I help you? They give us their shopping list of what they want us to work on with them. Then we ask some basic questions. We do need to know, is there a family history of whatever? Have you had surgeries? Have you had any diagnoses from your doctor? Are you on any medications? Do you know of any allergies? Is there anything else that you think I should know? And then we take their symptoms, the bit of background they've given us, and we look at their eyes. Again, we look at the iris for the genetic potentials. We look at the sclera for what's going on right now. And this allows us to dive deep with our questions. And it allows us to create that conversation that makes our clients feel very heard and very understood, very much like they're a part of the process of sorting this out. And from there, then we are able to create very simple next step programs for them. So we're creating their program over several appointments where we're building, tweaking, building, tweaking, building, tweaking. This creates such a deep rapport. Clients absolutely love it. And I love it too, because it means that I'm not guessing. I'm actually hitting the target. I'm getting to the root of the problem. And my clients are seeing very clearly the progress along the way, that they've seen a certain symptom reduce, they're feeling better in a certain way. And it works so marvelously, so marvelously. Adam is one of my graduates of my course. He is a naturopath herbalist in England. He said, having had comprehensive iridology training in the past, I can attest that the dynamic iridology course is well-rounded and covers all the necessary basics, embellished with the teacher's own experience and discoveries. This course is taught from an up-to-date information, and it is clearly apparent how much work she puts into staying in the forefront of iridology research. The hidden gem in this iridology course is the ongoing support that Judith kindly offers, and which I find to be an invaluable gift and resource. So many teachers cut you off when the coursework is done, or when you've certified. You're on your own now. Go figure it out. We have ongoing mentoring as a gift to my students. It's currently a gift, regardless of where they are in the program or how long ago they graduated. We have ongoing mentoring group sessions. So and that's what Adam is loving about the course now. The Dynamic Iridology Assessment System is the only live, online, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, naturopaths, RNs, MDs, chiropractors who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care. If you want to get more work done in less time and have that work be even more spot on, then this is a good program for you. Because learning iridology the way I will teach it to you will mean that you get your programs created when you're with your client rather than going off on your own time to create programs. If you're a nutritionist, you know what I'm talking about there. And even if you're a herbalist, you know what I'm talking about there. It will help you to stop overwhelming your clients. If you can create their program while you are with them, it's almost impossible to overload your client. And when you don't overload your client, when you give them just what they need to move up one notch on their health, a couple of things happen. They are more compliant. Not only are they more compliant, they get better results. When they get better results, they want to keep coming back. It leads to long-term retention. I have clients that have been with me, even from my ginseng and iridology days, for over 4 decades now. Right? They keep coming back. Sometimes they're gone for a few years, but then they come back. So if you want to learn more than just iris markers, if you want to learn how the iris markers play off each other, if you want to be mentored in creating programs for your clients, if you want long-term support and mentoring after the course is done, then I'm going to make a specific invitation for you here. And this is especially if you have a college level anatomy and physiology course under your belt, or you're a professional herbalist, nutrition coach, naturopath, nurse, chiropractor, ND, MD, and you're ready to start learning iridology at a clinical level, at a professional level, then it's time for us to chat. Because the goal of this course is to teach you constitutional iridology and how to use it confidently so that you can easily integrate what you already know to confidently create doable client programs in your paid client sessions. And here's the invitation. If you have that A&P under your belt or are a professional health coach of any description, book a Zoom video call with me. This is a 15-minute call. It's the first call that we would have, and it is designed for us to decide, is this program a good fit? And if the program is a good fit, I'll invite you to have a second call with me where we will talk about details. If the program's not a good fit, I will refer you off to maybe get your A&P or refer you to another program that might be a better fit for you. Again, our next course start date is October 12th. The class time will be noon till 2:15 Mountain Daylight Time. Okay, so make note of that time zone. And yeah, make a note of this URL and let's get you in on a phone call if you have the right prerequisites. And I'm just going to type this into the chat box there we go. There we go. So for those of you who are with me on the webinar, the URL is in the chat box. You can copy and paste that. Now, I haven't seen any other questions come in. Haven't seen any questions. Selena's sending me hearts and loves. Thank you. I can use all the love I can get. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would love to, and then she's just spamming me with it. I love it. So my invitation to you is if you have A&P under your belt and you want to add iridology to your work as a wellness coach, reach out to me. Let's have this first phone call. Let's see if you are a good fit. If the course is a good fit for you, it's really a two-way street, right? And let's make sure if it is, then that we have another conversation and we move forward and get you enrolled in the program. and get you moving forward with this. So any other questions, anything else that anyone wants to know? Okay, so Selena, you would like the link, it looks like, as well. So I'm making a note of that. All righty, perfect. And with that, my friends, that's all I've got for you today. Lori, you are more than welcome. I hope to talk to you soon on a call, and I hope you all have a fabulous day. We will talk to you soon. And there's Makala saying mahalo, and Selena's saying thank you. Look forward to it. Wonderful. Mirella saying thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. What a wonderful group. So nice to work with people who are appreciated and appreciative. And you know, I appreciate you taking this past 45 minutes to be with me today. I know there's probably a million other things that you could have been doing, but you prioritized this time. So thank you. I hope this has been worth your while. And I do look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Make it a fabulous day. Bye for now.